Hello everyone. I will be taking you through introduction of research design. Okay, I am Dr. Jaspreet Kaur. I'll be taking you through the types of research design which are there in research. So let me first just give me a minute. Yeah. So let me first come to the phases of research. So primarily there are 6 phases of research: introduction, review of literature, research methodology, data gathering, data processing, implications, and conclusions. Now when you come to research design, which is the phase you are at right now? So you are at the phase of research methodology. Okay, so ideally in a PhD thesis or in a research paper, whatever you're writing, the part of research design comes into chapter number 3, which is research methodology. Okay, so let's see what are the types of research design. Okay, now what is a research design first? And you must have read this in many books. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a little practical with examples. Okay, so yes, the conceptual part of research design, and because these are technical parts of research methods, you could get it in books like Malhotra and Dash 2018, research books written by Kothari sir, Saunders, Lewis, and these similar books you could get. If you want to read a specific research design, for example, you want to read about qualitative research, only about qualitative research, there are specialized research books like Creswell, or qualitative research by Dr. Russell Belk. Mixed method books are also there, so I'll come to that one by one. So a research design is like a blueprint of the research. It's like giving a map, a plan to the research. And why I call it a plan is because what sort of a data collection you'll do, what sort of an analysis are you going to do, what sort of an interpretation are you going to do, all the chapters after this and before this depend on the research design. So research design is a stepwise description of your research, or a sequence in which your research will occur. The research design is based on need of the study. Now, till lately, I think 5 years ago, if a student, a PhD student came to me, they said, ma'am, please do anything in research, but please fit in structural equational modeling into the research. So till past 5 years, I've been seeing that students are a little inclined towards the quantitative part of research design. But now lately, what I see in the past 1 year is that the new PhD students which are getting enrolled and who are under me, they say, ma'am, we want to do mixed method. Okay, so mixed method is 2 methods taken together. But the point that I explained to them, the students who used to come to me and say, ma'am, we can do any topic. Okay, just fit in structural equational modeling into our PhD. Or now when students come and said, ma'am, we can take any topic, you fit in mixed method into our PhD. Now this is a wrong approach. Okay, simply because there's a new technique or a method which has come up, you are trying to fit in that method into your topic. That is wrong. Okay, you have to first see your topic, see your research questions, and on the basis of that topic, you have to select a research design. But one very big mistake that we people do is that if a particular research design, for example, mixed method nowadays is there's a lot of hoo-halla about mixed methods in research. So what we do is that we try and force that design on our topic. This is not what we should be doing. The research design is chosen on the basis of the need of the study, and this 1 hour that I'm with you, I'll be giving you examples of the same, of how On the basis of need, you select a research design. The first type of research design, and primarily there are three. Now we are coming up with complicated research designs also, but primarily there are, ever since I have studied research, there have been three research designs. One is exploratory, another is descriptive, and the third one is causal. Okay, descriptive and causal research are together also known as conclusive research. Okay, I'll tell you the reason why descriptive and causal research are called conclusive research. I'll take you through the process. So, why exploratory first, or why I'm explaining exploratory first? Although researchers are divided with this philosophy, but when I was taught research in my MBA, my faculty told me that for every topic, first there's an exploration, then comes description, and then comes causal. So for him as a faculty, he said that this is in a sequence, and he's not wrong. As I explain it to you, it will be in a sequence. So first we will do exploration, then we will do description, then we will come to causal. And I'll do all of this for one research problem only. Because if I make a flow of first exploration, then description, then causal for one problem, you will understand how this flow is made. Also, you will understand how these three types of research designs are different from each other. Okay, so I'm going to take one example, take you through exploration, description, and causal. I will give you other examples also, but one example will be constant so that you understand the difference between the three designs. Further, once these simple descriptions and data collections are covered, now what is coming up? Now this is very, very basic, okay, something which is taught to PhD students during their basic research classes. But now what is happening is that this is again bookish knowledge, exploration, description, causal. This is bookish knowledge. Now what is happening is that there are new types of designs coming up. Okay, so this bifurcation has finished, and there's something called a mixed method where you're doing an exploration, plus you're doing a description, you're doing a qualitative, you're doing a quantitative. You are doing qualitative and quantitative at same time, so they are called concurrent research. Okay, you are doing qualitative and quantitative at different time, one after another, so it is called sequential research. So even within research designs, there are different types of designs which have come up. But the basic ones that you need to start a paper or to start PhD or complete PhD are exploratory, descriptive, and causal. Even the mixed method that I'm telling you is just a mixture of these basic research. So if you know the basic research designs, you will be able to understand what is a concurrent or what is a triangular sort of a mixed method research. So let's come to the first type of research, and I never understood this when I was doing my MBA, but after I started teaching and I started teaching graduates, I started understanding this. Exploratory research is a research which is loosely defined. Okay, it is not concrete. Agreed, it is a part of the research, but it is not definite that what comes out as an outcome of exploration is actually going to happen in real life. But it is a type of research. The research process is unstructured and flexible. So after I do research design, I'm going to come to the data collection techniques for each of the research design, and you will see that the data collection technique that we use for exploration are unstructured and flexible. So they are going to be open-ended questions. They will not be structured questions. I might change the questions while doing a personal interview based on what my respondent is saying. So the research process, the data collection process, the interpretations are all unstructured and flexible, and I have to make them so because I'm doing exploration. I'm exploring something new. Findings are tentative and need further research. Despite the fact that exploration is a type of research, but the findings that you list in exploration are tentative. Sometimes you might ask, when I give you the examples, you might ask, what is the use of such a research? Where we have done a research, we have listed something, but that something is useless. I mean, it's not actual real findings at all. But exploratory research, although tentative, makes a basis for further types of research design like description and causal. Okay, so you have to have a base. That base paper is exploratory. The insights of exploratory research have to be cross-checked by conclusive research. What is conclusive research? Descriptive and causal together form conclusive research. So, on any one topic, if you feel, okay, exploration has been done, it's enough. Let's list the findings. My PhD is done. You would be wrong. You have to do exploration and then confirm the results through conclusive research, through descriptive or causal research. Okay, and that is the reason nowadays in PhD, I mean, even if your guide is saying mixed method, it's not that it's a trend. They want you to do this whole process. They want you to go exploratory, find out a new variable. After finding out a new variable, they want you to check the variable through description, check the relation of that variable to other factors through causal research. Okay, so they want you to do that process. That is the reason mixed method is so much in fashion nowadays. So, yeah. So and it finds isolated key variables. See, the essence of exploration is that I find out a new variable. I am not finding out the variables which are already defined by researchers. I am finding out the new variable. Let me give you an example of the same. And I would like to quote the person from whom I got example. I generally do give the leverage to people from whom I have learned. So Dr. Prabhakar of Aligarh Muslim University, I was attending one of his FTPs and he gave this example, and then I researched on that and I found out this example. So he said, there was a person who said, I want to do research about life after death. He wanted to do research on what happens after death. Now this is exploration. Why is it exploration? Please let's go back and see. Information is loosely defined. Even if we come up with a conclusion of what happens after death, it will be loosely defined. The method of collection will be unstructured. I cannot go to a man and say, okay, are you dead or not dead? Yes or no? 1 to 2. Which person did you see? 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't do that. He's dead and he's come back to life. He was declared dead and he came back to life in a minute. That is the sample this person chose. It has to be unstructured and flexible. I'm looking for that new variable. Why is this exploratory? Is because this sort of a research had never happened. Actually, nobody knows what happens after death. Okay, so this was a research paper. You can see it. Actually, he told me that there was a research done. Dr. Prabhakar told me there was a research done. I later on went and found out papers. Because, when you talk to an audience saying that, okay, there was a research done, many people don't believe it. Many people don't believe that there could be a research done where you're studying a person after death. Okay, and what sort of a research is it and what sort of finding they'll come out with. So that is why I have in the PPT a paper. This is a paper in 2008 and it's from Journal of Psychology and Theology. Okay, so this is a published research that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about lame examples. In this exploration, the person wanted to find out what happens after death. Now, how does he get the samples? How will you go to a dead body and say, okay, I want to do a research on what happens after death. Please help me. So what this person did is he took samples, few samples. Remember, in exploratory research, we don't take 500 samples. We could take somewhere around, start with 25 to 60. Okay, max to max, maybe 80. right? Because this is qualitative research, this is open-ended research. You'll give one question and the other person will speak for hours together, and you will collect that qualitative text data and analyze it. That is what is exploration. And why are we doing this? Why are we letting him speak for hours together? Because we need that new variable. A new variable which is not written in research, a new variable which has not yet been found out, a new variable where we have no secondary data about it. We are on a mission to find out that variable. So we better speak less and let him speak more. The more he speaks, the more he brings his feelings, attitudes, beliefs, perceptions, motivations, behavior, the more textual data we get and the more better the analysis becomes. This is primarily, exploration is primarily qualitative data analysis. Okay, exploratory research is never quantitative, because quantitative limits you. It says yes, no, one or two, choice between these three brands. It limits you. Okay, it limits the sample. Exploration does not limit the sample. So these people were asked what they felt after that, and how did he get the sample? He got a very small sample, but that sample were people who were declared dead by the doctor, but they came back to life within a minute. So there are such rare cases where the doctor does declare the body dead, but they revive back to life. Rare, but possible. And exploratory is about the rare. Okay, if in medical science I start studying the impact of exercise on blood pressure, that's not rare. No exploration can be done on that. You better go for description and causal. So these phenomena were rare. So he picked up those people, he asked them what they saw after death. He wrote down their narratives. Okay, he wrote down, he had some 25 to 30 transcript. What is a transcript? When we speak to a person for a personal interview, that one person, the data that he gives us, qualitative data, becomes our transcript. So if I have 60 samples, I should be having 60 transcripts. And these 60 transcripts are then put into a software, or manually I start analyzing them. So this is an ideal example of exploration. Now, going back to what is exploration. Despite the fact that this paper is made, information is loosely defined. Nobody can say that absolutely this happens after death. Research process is unstructured. You cannot go to the person and say, okay, how do you feel after death? X, Y, Z. Please mark. You can't do that. You'll have to go, you'll have to give him one sentence and just wait for him to give his feelings, motivations, attitudes about death. Findings are tentative. Yes, we are not sure this happens after death. We have just listed it down, and this needs further research. Okay? But we find isolated key variables. If nobody has ever listed what happens after death, in this research paper, this person is the first one who has listed what happens after death. So yes, the new variable has come out. Okay, finally, whatever he concluded that this happens after death, okay, that is the new variable, and it has come out, and it has come out from exploration. Okay, I hope the exploratory research design is clear. Let me go further. The conclusive research design includes description. Okay, now let me take the same example. Just to explain, I'll take the same example. Now just imagine that these people, I'll come to description, but let me tell you the findings of the previous research. Suppose after death, people narrated what happens to them. So a few of them said that I saw light, a few of them said I saw God, a few said I saw my family, a few said I saw pitch darkness, a few of them said I don't remember. Okay, so everything was listed in that paper. Now let's come to description. Description is to describe something which is already there. It's as simple. Something is already there. What is already there? The variables are already there. So which variables are we working on? God, darkness, forgetfulness, family, angels, a flash of light. All these variables came out through exploration. We didn't know about them initially. Now in description, we associate the variables. Okay, so now if you understand why exploration is important, is because you have to find the new variable. Before association, before counting them quantitatively, you have to know the variables. Who gives you the variable? Exploration gives you the variable. So now description associates the variables which are already found in exploration. There it could be the prediction of a specific problem. For example, in marketing, generally we have problems like what is the sale of a company. Over here, the topic that I'm talking about, which is theology. The example that I've just given you is theology. So here we could make specific predictions about how many times did a person see God? How many times did a person see a flash of light? How many times did a person see a known person like a family? And we list them down in a descriptive, quantitative table. And we draw conclusions from that. So description is quantitative in nature. Description is done on variables already described, already made. We find no new variable in descriptive design. Descriptive design is a pre-planned and structured design. So, because I know I have to make this table, I will go through research and list down how many people said. It's very structured. I'm going to make 4 columns. That's it. I'm not going to leave it open-ended. I'm going to go to the next 25, say 100 people, because description is done on a larger number of samples. So in description, we could go to somewhere around, I've seen generally from 150 to somewhere around 700 samples. Description, it's concrete research, it's conclusive research. You better have 500 samples to conclude something. It's going to be a final conclusion. People are going to believe in it. So it better be a large sample. You're going to generalize it also. Okay, so it is a pre-planned and structured research. It is quantitative in nature and it needs a hypothesis. We'll come to what hypothesis is, but as of now you can say that hypothesis is an assumption. Okay, so if I am doing this research, this same research on dead people in a descriptive way, I will first list a hypothesis. I will list my research questions and then I will list a hypothesis that most of the people, this is an example of a hypothesis, most of the people after death have, most of the people after death see their family before reviving back to life. Now this is a hypothesis. What will I have to do for this? I'll have to go back to exploratory research, count the number of people who saw the family, and if maximum saw the family, I will say my hypothesis is true. Quantitative in nature, structured, planned, hypothesis is needed, and it is done on variables which we have already found out in exploration. Okay. Let me take an example of descriptive research. All of you people, probably faculties on board, you get into a class. This is a very, very simple example. You get into a class. You count the number of students, okay? And this is an evaluation we are doing on a regular basis. It's just that we don't know it is being done. So description is something we are doing in our classes daily. Okay, so even if it's a PhD full-time scholar who's going to a class, vis-a-vis a faculty who's going to the class, we are continuously doing a description. If I ask you, as a faculty, if I ask you, ma'am, in the 3rd year or 3rd level class that you go, are there more males or females? You will be able to answer me in a minute. How are you able to answer me? Because when you get into the class, You're teaching that class for 6 months. Unknowingly, unconsciously, you are already doing description. You know the variables, gender. You know the category of variables, males and females. There's another category which has now come up, which is others. Okay, so you know. So if you're teaching for 6 months and I ask you, ma'am, how many males are there? You'll say, okay, these many males are there. If I ask you, ma'am, how many in your class are Asians? You will say, these many are Asians. Variable number 2. Variable number 2, demographic. In demographic, the residence of the person or the nationality of the sample is the second variable. Describe. Put them into categories, count them, it becomes description. So when you get into the class and you say, okay, I have somewhere around 50% of the class is Asians. So this is the second variable, nationality. You say around 60% are females. This is a description of the second variable, which is gender. Okay, if you say somewhere around, even you see in the class, somewhere around 90% of the class has black hair. This is the third type of description. So, similarly in research, if it is a marketing research, all these people become my consumers. They are my samples. If I am doing a research in the science domain, suppose I am trying to see the impact of a chemical on human beings, all this group becomes my samples for that experiment. If I am into a psychology class, okay, and I want to ask them, okay, describe the Maslow's, and I want to see how many of you fall into self-actualization, how many of you fall into self-esteem, how many of you fall into physiological needs in Maslow, which is the most prominent in you vis-a-vis others. If you're in a psychology class, you can number them, categorize them. These become your samples for a psychology problem. These become a sample for you for an English class also. If you're working on maybe something like a description of a word in English, okay, this becomes a sample for your sociology class also, in case you are asking about say the farmer protest in India. They become your sample. Political in a political science class, if you want to know the impact of the Prime Minister on the farmers' agitation in India, the longest ever in 2021. Okay, so description means describing something which is already there. But while these examples I've given you, have you found out a new variable? No, you have just described the old variable, or a variable which was already established, like gender, like color of the hair, like nationality of the person. Okay, we generally categorize students into the ones who are first class and the ones who will be third class, second class. Okay, we categorize them on the basis of marks, don't we? So all this is a part of description. Quantitative, conclusive, definite, can be generalized, and all these things are not there in exploration. These are a few examples of descriptive studies. As you see, they are quantitative. Vis-a-vis this, the paper that I showed you in exploration, it was qualitative. It was textual data. Descriptive studies, mean, median, mode. This all of us have done in our from 7th standard onwards, 7th standard maths, 10th standard maths, mean, median, mode, and whichever domain we are from, we always have done mean, median, mode. Let me take the basic descriptives. Let's not go to complicated descriptives like correlations and chi-squares. That will take another workshop of 5 days. But if I say the basics that you know, mean, median, mode, okay, that is nothing but description. So these are the descriptive tables you see in research papers or in your PhD. Even this is description. If you are noting down the sale of a particular company from this year to this year, this same example in economics could become the GDP growth of India from say 2010 to 2014. Okay, in political science, It could become another topic from 2010 to 2014. So descriptive studies could also be longitudinal. What do you mean by longitudinal? It happens over a period of time. You note down data for a period of time. Most of the finance studies, economic studies are descriptive studies and longitudinal. And these longitudinal studies are done through a technique called time series and panel data. So all of you who are into finance or economics domain, okay, and want to do description, your description will primarily be long term. Okay, so any economic reform, I can't say, okay, today I asked people, tomorrow I summarize. No, you will have to do it longitudinal over a period of time. Similarly, any financial problem, so you'll have to see the data of the company for the past 5 years to describe and finally conclude something. Vis-a-vis that, when it comes to the commerce domain, marketing, HR, these people, what I also form, there's a social sciences domain, primarily human resources and marketing, commerce domain. Over there, what we can do is we can interview we can give a survey to a person, maybe a consumer of Pepsi, ask him something then and there and conclude then and there. We don't have to wait with the consumer of Pepsi for 5 years to know what is his motivation to buy a brand like Pepsi. So that sort of a research where we do it then and there and finish it off, say in a week or a month or something like that, over a sample of 500 consumers, that sort of a research is called cross-sectional. Okay, so in description, you have two types of research. One is longitudinal, where you're doing a research for a long period of time. You can see over here from 2010 to 2014. And there's a second research which is called cross-sectional, where you go to the sample, take the finding then and there, list it then and there, take another 2 months to write down the paper and finally conclude your findings. Okay, so that is descriptive research. I hope the difference between description and exploration is clear. It's very, very simple, and they are just the opposite. So where exploration is loosely defined, descriptive is conclusive. Where in exploration, I don't have a definite structure of data collection. My data collection techniques are flexible and open-ended. In description, my data collection techniques are very much structured and they are not open-ended. They are multiple choice or close-ended. Where in exploration, I cannot generalize it. In description, I can generalize it. In exploration, it needs further research to be definite, but in description, no further research is needed for it to be definite. Because these findings are real, actual, and they are more than enough. You don't need another research to further say that these are concrete or they are true or they can be generalized. So exploration and description, if you have understood through these examples. Another example is comparing two means. So I told you there is a mean, median, mode. Okay, so when you are comparing two means, okay, at that time also you're doing description. So suppose you're comparing the height of a few children over a period of time. You're there with them for 5 years and you're comparing the height of, say, Asians to Europeans, to the South Asians, to the Americans. Okay, so if you are comparing the children, American children to Asian children to African children, so on and so forth, it becomes a comparative study. There your research objective will be to compare two or more groups to perform a statistical test. It could be a mean, median, mode, it could be an ANOVA, it could be a chi, it could be anything. Okay, but the descriptive studies, the major descriptive studies which are there are mean, median, mode. These are the very basic ones. Okay, so suppose I'll just give you an example of comparative studies. Suppose I take Asian kids and I take European kids. Okay, I find out the average height of an Asian kid from 500 samples. I find out the average height of the European kids from a sample of 500. Okay, I set up a hypothesis before this. What is the hypothesis? That the average of Asian height and the average of European height is going to be same. I remember description mein you have to set up a hypothesis. So I set up a hypothesis that the average of the Asian kid will be same as the average of the European kid. Then I collect data. I go to 500 people, list their heights. Okay, this is the average of Asian. I go to 500 Europeans, list the data. Okay, this is the average height of Europeans. I compare the two. If they are same, I say hypothesis accepted. If they are not same, I say hypothesis rejected. Okay, so this is the whole process. I've told you the whole process of descriptive study. And there are different types. So I told you longitudinal, where we could collect the economic data or the financial data of a person, of a company, over a period of time, 10 years. Okay, again, there is comparative data where I could compare this to this. Okay, even psychologically, in psychology studies, we could compare Asians and their emotional quotient vis-a-vis Europeans and their emotional quotient. Okay, politically, we could compare a few factors in politics, one to another. We could compare in economic studies, we could compare the FDI of Asians versus the FDI of Europeans or over a period of 5 years. So comparative studies are also a part of description. Okay, so these are the various types of descriptive studies. Okay, let me just summarize what we learned in description. It associates a variable which is already found out in exploration. I'm not finding out a new variable. It has specific predictions, whether you're doing comparisons, whether you're studying over a long period of time, whether you're studying over a short period of time, cross-sectional or longitudinal data or comparative data, there are specific predictions. They are pre-planned and structured. I will come to data collection techniques of description and you will see the data collection techniques are very, very structured. Okay, generally we use a survey questionnaire, a structured survey questionnaire for descriptive studies. Hypothesis is needed. I explain the hypothesis with the comparative study example. Height of Asians, 500 sample. Height of Europeans, 500 sample. Hypothesis, both the heights will be simple. Or hypothesis could also be both the heights will not be same. The average of both the heights will not be same. Hypothesis proven. That is supported or not supported, accepted or not accepted. That is your interpretation of descriptive study. Descriptive studies are quantitative in nature. I have given you 3-4 examples to prove that this is quantitative data. It is very, very different from exploratory qualitative data. So this is the major difference between the major types of two types of research design, which is exploration and description.